Updating our top story now, an Army psychiatrist due to be deployed to Iraq opened fire today at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. At least 12 people were killed, including the gunman, 31 others wounded. Don Teague is at Fort Hood. And Don, what is the latest from there?
Well, we are waiting for a news conference by military officials that was supposed to begin some time ago. We hope to hear more about the shooter in this case. You identified him, 39-year-old Malik Nadal Hassan. We are told he is a psychiatrist, was upset potentially about being deployed to Iraq, but military officials have not gone into a motive for what he was doing. We also don't know the status of the other two arrests in this case. We are told from military officials that two other soldiers were apprehended after eyewitnesses saw them apparently taking part in this shooting, but they haven't given us any more information about that, so there's very little we know about those two soldiers. I can tell you that the post is still on lockdown. The community of Killeen, including the schools, are on lockdown, and everyone is just in a state of shock here. They have begun organizing blood drives for the community to help with a massive effort to help for so many of the wounded here. Katie?
And I know that Fort Hood is the largest U.S. military installation in the world, so obviously people are feeling very, very badly about what happened here. And there was another incident not that long ago there as well, right, Don?
There have been several much smaller incidents in the past few years, and of course here in Killeen, the Luby's cafeteria shooting that claimed 23 lives in 1991. I should tell you that despite this being a huge military post, this is a very tight-knit community. I trained here when I was in the Army. I can tell you that it feels like a family when you've got 53,000 people. Those are the soldiers. All of their family members are here. The people who support the military are here. So despite it being such a massive population, it is very tight, and this is very difficult for the people in this area because for now we don't know the identification of those who have been killed and injured, and we presume that most of the family members do not know as well, so everyone is tense here waiting to hear any additional word from the military. Katie?
And David Martin is at the Pentagon tonight, and David, I'm just curious, are Pentagon officials perplexed by the fact that this man, the shooter, was an Army psychiatrist who was a drug rehab specialist?
Well, you know, drug-related cases of violence are among the most frequent kinds of violence in the Army. So there's a very cruel irony to this. And one of the questions that people are going to try to answer now is, did Major Hassan give any indication that he was capable of something like that? And if he did, was there anything that the Army could or should have done to prevent it?
And David, of course, we can't assume that this was the result of any kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. We can't really make those assumptions in terms of his motives, but that certainly has been an enormous problem for U.S. forces and at Fort Hood because it's such a big installation.
Well, Fort Hood has been one of the major suppliers of units, particularly for Iraq. There are right now 3 brigades from Fort Hood in Iraq, plus the headquarters for the 1st Cavalry Division, which is at Fort Hood, is also in Iraq. So they have at any one time tens of thousands of soldiers who are deployed mainly to Iraq. And many of those soldiers, of course, have now made repeat deployments to Iraq, which put not only the soldiers under stress, but their families who have to make do at home under stress.
And Don Teague, do you have any updates on the 31 individuals who were wounded? I understand their wounds vary greatly and they are being treated at a number of area hospitals.
They are obviously, these are gunshot wounds, Katie, and they range across the board. We would assume some are critical, but the hospitals aren't giving us specific details on those numbers. We do know there was at least one civilian who was among the victims. We're told this was a police officer, a contract officer on post. It's a shared duty between military, police, and civilians who patrol the post. We know of that. We don't know of any other civilians who were among those who were victims at this point. Katie?
All right. Don Teague at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. Don, thank you very much.